So let's go ahead and have a seat and get ourselves kind of centered in and connected to our bodies. You know what's going on this morning. Just find your nice straight spine, shoulders relaxed, head balanced on top of your spine. Take a moment and just close your eyes and feel your body. Notice everything about what you're feeling. Begin to breathe your Ujjayi breath. We're going to really kind of focus on Ujjayi breathing today. So just a reminder, you're slightly closing the throat, just slightly, doing this all through your nose so you make a kind of a whisper sigh sound. And then just check in with any thoughts that might be swirling around in the mind this morning. Notice any emotions. Feel what your energy feels like right now. Even notice how connected you feel to yourself and to everything around you, to creation. And then go ahead and set your intention for your practice. Palms together in front of the heart. Take a deep breath in through your nose. Exhale with a sigh. And then we're back to nose breathing only, if possible, Ujjayi breaths. Let's go ahead and come to standing at the front of the mat. So I want you to just find a nice grounded mountain pose, Tadasana. Fingers are extended, heart is lifted. You have energy running through your body, but not tension. There's a difference. You feel the ground beneath you. You're very connected to the earth. And then inhale, reach your arms up. Spread your fingers, lift your chest. Look up if that feels okay. Hold this for a couple of breaths. And then on your next exhale, bend your knees, fold forward, relax your neck, and hang in ragdoll. From here, just go ahead and plant your fingertips beside the feet. Only as much as you comfortably can. Straighten the legs a little. So you're not trying to get them completely straight. You want to keep your torso in contact with the thighs. And then keep your hands where they are, and you might need to bend your knees deeper, but you're going to look up and lengthen. Flatten out the back, half forward bend. And then fold all the way back down. From here, we're going to step back to plank position. I want you to plant your hands, have them shoulder width apart, and step your feet back so that you're in a nice straight line. We're going to kind of be going back to basics today. So your plank position, your upper push-up position, you want to be very mindful not to have your bum in the air. It's not like a half down dog. And you don't want to let your hips sag and sink. You want to be in a nice, firm, straight line. Now, from here, we're going to drop down to the knees. Keep the toes turned under, knees stay down. Bum stays in the air. Shoulders pull down the back, and we take the chest and the chin to the floor. Hold this for a moment. Your elbows are squeezed in by your torso. Shoulders are down the back. Simply untuck your feet. Let the hips find the ground and slightly lift up for a baby cobra. Shoulders are still hugging in. Elbows are hugging in. And then downward facing dog. Just turn your toes under and press up and back. So the hands never really need to change at all. Now in your first down dog, of course, you can wiggle a little bit here. But then really press, press, press those hips up and back. Take a couple of breaths here. And then I want you to just check your down dog. From this down dog, excuse me, simply shift back into plank. Your hands and feet should be in exactly the same position where you started. So we're going to kind of play with these basic principles today. Shift back into your downward facing dog. And then go ahead and step forward with your right foot. Hold your lunge for a moment. Drop onto the left knee. Let's take the arms up and overhead. Pardon me. Tuck your tailbone under or tilt the pelvis back. Lift the rib cage. Let your hips move forward until you feel this on the front of your left hip. Take a moment here, and then we're just going to really engage and strengthen the back. So on your next exhale, I want you to bend your elbows and squeeze them down and back. You're going to feel your shoulder blades pulling together and sliding down. You're going to feel the muscles between the shoulder blades contracting and tightening. Take one more breath. And then bring the hands down on either side of your right foot. Fully extend your right leg. Flex the ankle and toes once you get there. And let's stretch out that right hamstring. From here, we're going to bend the right knee. And we're going to step back to plank. So if your hands are on either side of that right foot, like they should have been from basically the beginning, and you turn your left toes under, if you step your right leg back, you should just be in plank. So we shouldn't have to adjust our hands and feet a whole lot. Now, to modify a traditional vinyasa, so Chaturanga Dandasana means four-limbed staff. Well, sometimes that can be challenging to do correctly. So we're going to drop the knees down again. Shift the hips forward till your body's in a straight line. Hug your upper arms in towards your torso. Slightly tuck your chin in. This helps keep the chest lifted. And you're going to lower down, but stop right before you get to the ground. Untuck your toes. Lift your chest up with a slight bend in the elbows. This is a high cobra. And then turn the toes under, press your hips up and back. And just like that, you're in down dog. The hands haven't moved. And you can check again and make sure that you're in the right spot by simply shifting forward into a plank from your downward facing dog. Your arms should be vertical. Your body should be in a straight line. That's how you can tell you're in the right spot. Hips move up and back again for downward facing dog. And then we can simply leave our hands here and get that left foot up between them for our lunge. If you do need to move a hand or whatever, that's fine, but just put it back where you got it. So there are these 4 magic points on the mat where our hands and feet go, and they never lead us astray. From here, let's go ahead and drop the right knee down. We're going to take the arms up and overhead. Tilt the pelvis back, lift the rib cage, let the hips move forward until we feel this on the front of the right hip. And then let's strengthen the back again a little bit. On your next exhale, bend your elbows and squeeze them down and back, almost like you're trying to touch your elbows together behind you. And then hands on either side of the left foot. Extend your left leg. Flex the ankle and toes as much as possible. Get into that left hamstring. And then from here, we're just gonna bend the left knee. Now this time, we're gonna step our right foot forward to meet the left foot. You'll notice now your hands are beside your feet, which is where they belong, and you're standing forward bend. And then you can simply inhale, reach the arms up and overhead. And as you exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. Inhale, reach your arms up and stretch. Exhale, fold forward. Place your hands or fingertips down beside your feet, even if you need to bend your knees, and then look up halfway and lengthen. And back down. Now from here, we're gonna step back to plank position. Remember, if your body is in a straight line and your arms are vertical, your hands and feet are where they always belong. If you can do a full chaturanga, that's where we're going next. But if that's not accessible to you, drop your knees and do what we did last time. To do chaturanga like properly, you want to slightly push with your toes. You're pushing forward a little bit so that when you bend your elbows and drop, your forearms are vertical. Flip to the top of the feet, lift your chest and slightly bend your elbows and pull forward. So this is upward facing dog, with the knees and thighs off the ground. And then downward facing dog. Press your hips up and back. And so again, you can just double check. Down dog should always be from the same place that plank is. So don't change anything, just shift forward and you're in plank. If you have a tendency to step forward with your feet in down dog, you're cheating yourself out of the spine lengthening benefits. So from this plank, just go back into down dog. It doesn't matter if your heels are far away from the ground. They're moving in that direction, but they don't have to touch. So reach those hips up and back, press the heels down, and don't worry about whether your heels are flat. Really focus more on your sensation. And then from here, we're going to take the right foot forward, spin your left heel flat, and come up into warrior one. Adjust your feet if you need to. We want our hips to rotate forward as much as possible. Left leg is straight, right knee is bent. Arms are up and overhead. Take a moment here and breathe. I want you to feel your strength and your power in warrior one, Virabhadasana 1. So we're going to do the same arm position that we did a moment ago in our initial sun salutation variation. On your next exhale, squeeze the shoulder blades together. Arms are moving back. Elbows are bending. Squeezing shoulder blades together. Take 2 more breaths here. This is really good for strengthening your back. And then we're going to come up from this, straighten the right leg, extend the arms in front of us, lift the chest, lengthen out, stretch, stretch, stretch. And then you can let your hands find either your shin or blocks or the floor and just lengthen out over your right thigh. Take a couple of breaths here. And then we're just going to step back to plank position. Hold your plank. Now, whatever version of a vinyasa is appropriate for you, that's what I want you to do. But now we're going to link this to the breath. So using that beautiful Ujjayi breath, when you are in your plank position, this is your inhale. However you lower down, whether it's knees, chest, and chin, or modified chaturanga or full chaturanga, that happens on your exhale. So you're going to exhale, lower down, inhale, come into either low cobra, high cobra, or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Now, just making sure we're still linking with breath and that we're in the right spot. I'd like you to inhale into plank. Exhale into downward facing dog. You're just checking your placement. And then on your next inhale, step your left foot forward, spin your right foot flat, and come up, warrior one. Arms are up and overhead. You're just taking a moment trying to get those hips to rotate forward. You want your right leg straight, left knee bent. And then on your next exhale, bring those elbows down and back. Strengthening the upper back. Breathing. Squeezing shoulder blades together. And then go ahead and come back up, straightening your left leg. Extending the arms out in front of you straight and lengthening your spine forward. Allowing the hands to either come to the shin or the ground, or you can use blocks if that's more comfortable. And just take a couple of breaths here. And then from here, we're going to step back to plank and we're going to follow our breath through a vinyasa. So your plank is your inhale. Your exhale lowers your body down. Your inhale lifts the heart. And your exhale lifts your hips, downward facing dog. From this down dog, we're going to step the right foot forward, spin the left foot flat, and come into warrior two. So now our hips are really more aligned with the long sides of the mat. Our right foot is parallel to the long sides of the mat. That right knee kind of presses out towards the little toe, but we're not rotating the foot out. Your foot is aligned. Your knee is pressing out so that that outer right hip has some engagement. And then we just have a nice soft gaze over that right middle finger. Straighten your right leg, lengthen your rib cage to the right, and find a nice aligned triangle pose. So just basics today, nothing crazy, but refining our vinyasas, kind of deconstructing and decoding them, finding what works for us, and learning to link to the breath. From here, take your left hand down. Here we go. Step back to plank. On an exhale, lower down. On an inhale, rise up. And on an exhale, downward facing dog. Just to double check, inhale to plank. Exhale to down dog. And then we're going to step the left foot forward, spin the right foot flat, warrior two. Remember, double check your alignment. So if you look at your right foot, your back foot is slightly angled in towards the midline of the body. Not a lot, but a little. Your left shin is vertical. Your left foot is parallel to the long sides of the mat, but that knee is pressing out a little towards the baby toe so that your left outer hip is quite engaged. You have a nice soft gaze over your left middle finger. Straighten that left leg. Extend the left side of your rib cage to the left. And then find your triangle pose. Now, part of why we were doing those back strengthening exercises earlier is because your back is engaged more than your chest when you do chaturanga properly. So we're going to play with that now. Bring your right hand down, step back to plank, and let's start this from the knees. Go ahead and drop your knees down. I want you to be very, very particular for just a moment. Shift your body weight forward until your body's in a straight line.
Pull your shoulder blades down your back. As you start to lower, I want you to really, really hug your elbows in towards your upper torso. And if you do that, you'll get to a point where you literally just kind of stop. It's like you can't drop below that. That's the perfect spot. Come up into your cobra and then downward facing dog. From your down dog, we're going to do one more, and I want you to just do it at your own breath pace and be mindful. You can do full chaturanga or modified. You're going to inhale into your plank. Make sure your back is engaged as you lower down. And then as you breathe in, you rise up. And then downward facing dog. From this downward facing dog, you may either walk or jump forward to a standing forward bend. So your feet would be between your hands. And then inhale, reach the arms up. And as you exhale, bring your palms together in front of your heart. So as I said, basics this morning. So our balance pose is simply traditional tree pose. If it's a wonky balance day, just a reminder, you can have a foot at your ankle and keep your toes down as a kickstand, or you can always hang on to something if you need to. We're going to stand on the right foot first. You're going to bring your left foot up wherever you want it. You can have it at the ankle, the calf, or the thigh. Don't press against the inside of your knee. And once you get your foot where you want it, that knee presses out to the side. So again, we're engaging the hips. Palms come together in front of the heart. Focus on your Ujjayi breathing. And then release, left foot down. We'll do the same thing on the other side. So you're going to stand on your left foot. Now remember, one side may be different. Please just honor your body. So your right foot's either at the ankle, the calf, or the thigh. And we're going to press the knee out to the side. Palms together. Ujjayi breathing. And release your right foot down. Awesome. Feet are together, palms are together. We're going to inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, fold all the way forward, standing forward bend. So let's just play with these positions again. In your forward bend, it doesn't matter how much your knees are bent, contrary to a lot of modern yoga classes that tell you to put your hands on your thighs or your shins. You don't really make progress or correct your asana if you do it that way. So the idea is to get your torso to your thighs, no matter how much you need to bend your knees, with your hands beside your feet. From there, you can bend your knees even deeper if you need to, but you're going to look up and lengthen and find a flat back. And then exhale back down. So our hands are still beside our feet. We're going to take a big step back with our left foot. Bend the right knee. Here you are in your lunge. Go ahead and take your right hand towards the ceiling. Bring your right hand back down. Spin your left heel flat. Take your left hand towards the ceiling. And then rise up into a warrior two. And then simply take your hands on either side of your right foot, swivel onto your left toes. If you step your right foot back to meet your left foot, you are in plank. follow your breath through the vinyasa of your choice, being mindful of your back. You should be engaged. And the downward facing dog. From your downward facing dog, you get your left foot up between your hands, no matter how you need to get there. And the left knee bends. So now you're in that lunge, but we're still in those same perfect 4 spots with the hands and the feet. Take your left hand towards the ceiling. Bring your left hand back down, spin your right heel flat, take your right hand towards the ceiling. Rise on up, warrior 2. So you see feet and hands really don't need to adjust that much if you're mindful of where you start. From here, we simply take the hands back down, either side of the left foot. Step your left foot back to meet your right foot. You should be aligned in plank. Exhale, lower down, however you're doing your vinyasa. Inhale, rise up. Exhale into down dog and push your hips up and back. Heels are pressing down, but remember, it doesn't matter if they hit the floor or not. Now let's double check. In your down dog, shift forward into a plank. And then exhale, back to down dog. Drop to your knees. Do a couple of cat-cow stretches, inhaling to arch. Exhaling to round. And then just start to move your hands back towards your knees. So if you've been playing with all of these vinyasas with me, if you happen to have tweaky wrists, maybe this is a little too exciting. So we're just going to stretch out your wrists. If you do have wrist issues, please be mindful with these stretches. So the first thing we're going to do is point our fingers back towards our feet and get the hands flat. And then you're going to be very mindful and move slowly, keeping your arms straight. You're going to start to shift your body weight back, like you're sitting on your heels. You're going to feel a really nice stretch on the underside of your forearm. So this is your wrist stretch. You can go as deep as you like, but make sure that you're not hurting yourself. Take one more breath here. And then shift your weight forward again. And all we're going to do is flip now to the back of the hand. So your fingers are still pointing back. You're on the back of the hand or the top of the hand. You want your arms straight and you begin to shift your body weight back. Now for me, this is a far more intense stretch. For some of you, it may be or may not be. But you're just going to find the right amount of sensation and then breathe. Good. And then come back out onto hands and knees, all fours. What I'd like you to do here is keep your arms straight and circle your upper torso around your wrists. Let's go 3 times in each direction. Good. And then from here, I'm going to have you take your hands a little farther forward and simply transition onto your stomach. So we've been strengthening the back. We've been playing with vinyasas, just the basics. We're going to do a very basic version of Cobra, but it's the super traditional one. So this is going to be different from what you do in your vinyasa. But the beautiful thing about it is it's a back strengthener. So here's what I'd like you to do. Bring your big toes together and let your heels drop open. That's like what we do for Sphinx, right? We don't want the buns engaged in this most traditional Cobra because it's an upper back strengthener. Your hands are kind of under your shoulders. We're going to pull the shoulders down and back and make sure the elbows are touching the sides. But then here's the kicker. You're gonna lift your chest slightly and then lift your hands. So it's kind of a look, ma, no hands. However, do not let your buns tighten. So we're not trying to lift up with the low back or the glutes. We're doing that same upper back contraction that you did when we were going through sun salutations. So elbows are squeezing down and back. Heart is lifting, but you're trying to keep your buns soft. Take one more breath. Good, just lower your head down for a moment. Take a breath. Keep your big toes touching, but your heels separated. Bring your forearms out in front of you and underneath. Let's do a nice spine lengthening sphinx. You have earned this. Shoulders are down the back and the heart is pulling forward. You're literally pulling with your forearms to try and drag the rib cage forward a little bit to give yourself some space in the low back. One more breath here. And then we're going to transition into down dog and do that on an exhale. So as you exhale, toes turn under, hips move up and back, downward facing dog. And for the last time this morning, let's double check it. Inhale into plank. Exhale into down dog. And then from here, you can walk your feet forward and have a seat. And we'll just take a moment and come into Dandasana. So staff pose. So the cool thing is, I mean, it depends on your mat. But the cool thing is you're going to get almost like little visual markers of where your hands and feet always are. We're beautifully proportioned. Our bodies are always exactly as they should be. And it's really cool that those little 4 points, I like to think of them as home on the mat, they'll always make sure that you are aligned perfectly, whether it's for your vinyasas or your warriors or anything else. So now you know, and you've kind of decoded your vinyasas and had some practice. So let's find our sit bones, and we're going to keep it basic even here on the ground. So Dandasana pose. You have to feel your sit bones, the base of the pelvis. You want to put your hands right by your backside. Push into the floor so that your spine is very straight. Make sure that your arms are straight. Your head is balanced on top of your spine. And then I want you to engage your legs. So you're going to flex your feet. You're going to push the heels into the mat and then kind of press the backs of the knees down as well. So your legs are very engaged. Your spine is straight. If you could see yourself from the side, you are a perfect L shape. Take a breath here, reconnect to your Ujjayi breathing. And then let's move into Paschimottanasana, our seated forward bend. So in the same way that we can sometimes get derailed in a standing forward bend, the same thing can happen in a seated one. A lot of people really round and hunch their back in a seated forward bend, and the seated bend is the same as the standing. We're actually trying to get our torso to our thighs. So we want to hinge at the hips. So I'm going to ask you this morning, even if you're exceptionally flexible, bend your knees a tiny bit. Lift your heart up and try and get your rib cage on your thighs. Don't worry about what your hands are grabbing because you don't want your shoulders really compressed. You want to keep your shoulders down your back. And then as much as you can keep your torso to your thighs, you extend your legs. Now, once you're there, you're welcome to relax the neck, but you still have a lengthened spine rather than a rounded and hunched spine. Take a couple of breaths, fine-tuning that. I find that if we're not super mindful, we have a tendency to either just kind of zone out and do what we've always done, which is never a wise idea, or we get caught up in our ego, in our head, thinking we need to get our hands to our feet or look a certain way, and that's never a wise idea either. We should just be fully embodied, noticing the sensations, so that we can achieve the desired outcome of each asana. Come on up from that. We're going to keep the right leg straight. Bring the left foot to the inside of the right thigh and lean out over your right leg. Now, when you do this, if your body wants to go to the left, if you're grabbing your leg or foot with your right hand and your body's to the left, again, you're kind of missing the point. You want to feel both sit bones, lift the heart, just like we did with the two-legged seated forward bend. You want to lean your torso out over your right leg. Take a couple of breaths. And then come on up from that, and we're going to go into a really basic twist. I want you to pick your left foot up. We're going to bring it across the right thigh today. And make sure that the entire left foot is flat. So again, this is important. Even if your left hip lifts, that's okay. Left foot should be flat. We're grounding. Your left foot should feel like it does in Tadasana at the front of the mat. Right leg is active like it is in Dandasana when we sit in staff pose. Lift your chest, very straight spine, and simply reach your left arm around behind you to come into your twist. So no hunching, no squeezing the shoulders by the ears. You're welcome to bring the right arm outside of your left knee or thigh if that feels good to you. If you let your right arm be soggy and you're hyperextending at your right elbow, please don't. Bend the right elbow and do what I call the yoga wave. Your right hand is up in the air. It keeps you from hyperextending at the right elbow. Take a couple of breaths here, really trying to rotate fully about a very straight spine. And then you can unwind yourself. Extend your left leg and give both legs a good wiggle. Keep your left leg straight. Bring your right foot to the inside of your left thigh. Make sure you feel both sit bones. And again, lift up through your chest. Hinge at your hips to lean over your left leg, not over to the right. Make sure that your shoulders are down the back. And then come on up from that. We're going to pick the right foot up and bring it across the left thigh with the right foot flat. Make sure your big toe is pressing down into the floor. You don't want to be soggy here. And your left leg is very active. Lift up through your chest for a straight spine. Simply reach around behind you with your right hand and begin to twist to the right. Again, you're welcome to just hug your right knee. Or if you want, bring the left elbow outside, but don't just let it hang. Keep the left elbow bent if you're doing that. Do the little yoga wave. Take a couple of breaths here. And then we're going to unwind, bring that right leg back out. Give yourself a good wiggle. And then before we move on to our back, we're just going to do Baddha Konasana, which means bound angle pose, sometimes called cobbler's pose. We're going to bring the soles of the feet together. They don't have to be right up against your groin, whoever's comfortable for you, because the idea is to really engage outer hips so that we get an inner thigh release. Hands are right behind your backside. Press into the floor for that very straight spine. Then use your leg strength. Your knees press out to the side and down towards the floor. And then extend your legs out. Give them a really nice wiggle. From here, you're going to roll onto your back. Hug your knees in, and side to side rock. We're just going to keep the right knee hugged in towards the chest and extend the left leg all the way out onto the ground. So this is wind relieving pose, Pavanamuktasana. It has so many benefits. It is good for intestinal health. However, it's also a nice release for the right side of the low back, and it's a nice place to transition into a twist. So, right arm is going to open out to the right, and if you can, you're just going to use this left hand on your right knee or thigh to pull it across the body to the left. and let your head turn to the right. If this is too much for your back, you can bend your left knee and have both knees bent together. If you want more, you hook the toes of the right foot behind that left knee or thigh, and that allows you a little bit of extra twist and torque. You do what feels best for you, and then relax everything around your spine. Relax your extremities other than the little bit of tension required to hold you in the pose. On your next inhale, come all the way back up, and as you exhale, hug that right knee into the chest. Bring your left knee up to meet it, and then extend the right leg all the way out onto the floor. We're gonna hug the left knee in, so wind relieving pose on the left. And then we're just going to use this to transition into our twist. The left arm opens out to the left, and you're going to twist yourself to the right. So again, you can just let that leg come over. If you need to, you can bend both knees, or if you like, you can hook left toes behind that right knee or thigh. We're going to turn our head to the left if that feels okay, and take a few breaths. On your next inhale, bring that left knee back up, and as you exhale, hug it in. Bring the right knee up to meet it. Give yourself a nice little side-to-side rock, this little cradle rock. Our inversion is also going to be basic today, bridge pose, Setu Bandhasana. There are multiple ways to do bridge. The way that we're doing it is the most basic and aligned. It doesn't mean it's the only way, but it's a good way. So when you put your feet flat, I want you to bring your big toes to touch, your heels to separate. And if you feel down, that means your heels are about the same distance as your sit bones. That's what we want. We don't want the feet wide. We don't want the toes splayed out. So we want the heels the same distance as the sit bones. Hands or palms down by your feet. Now, when you start to lift up, hopefully your lower leg is vertical. So if you need to, you can walk your feet back towards your bum, or if they're too far under you, you can walk them forward. But the more you lift, the more you're going to get vertical at the knees. Now, for those of you who can and want to, you can interlace your fingers underneath you and roll onto the back of the arms. We keep the entire foot grounded, so no lifting up onto the tippy toes. You push through your heels. You keep your knees the same distance as your heels. Don't let them splay. We lift the hips as high as possible, and we lift the rib cage, and then we breathe. On your next exhale, lower down slowly. Hug your knees into your chest. Give yourself a good side-to-side rock. And then we're going to come into dead bug. Some traditions consider this happy baby. In my tradition, dead bugs don't move, but happy babies do. So this one we're not moving. It's dead bug. What I'd like you to do is, with your knees still bent in the air, separate your knees. Let your arms reach between your knees. Reach down and grab the arches of your feet from the insides. Try and get your lower leg vertical. So your knees are splayed wide outside the torso. Your heels are directly vertically stacked over your knees, and then you simply pull straight down. If your back rounds a lot, you can think about putting your tailbone down on the ground. It's not necessary, but you just want to make sure that you feel pretty grounded. Keep your feet flexed and active. Make sure you're applying pressure to the arches of the feet. Take a couple more breaths. So as I said, in my tradition, dead bugs don't move. This is the stationary pose, but happy babies do. So we rotate our hands around to the outside edges of the feet, and then you begin to add some movement. So I want you to explore how your body feels this morning. You've focused on simply the basics, the most basic stuff. And yet, there are beautiful effects from that. Sometimes we can get caught up in doing all the really cool, advanced stuff, and maybe all we really need to do is focus on fine-tuning the basics. So just feel how your body feels. Take a couple more breaths. When you're ready, I'd like you to put your feet flat on the mat with your ankles and knees touching each other so they're together. And this will be our final little bit of Ujjayi breath. So maintaining that beautiful, soft, slow Ujjayi breath, as you exhale, let both knees drop to one side. And then as you inhale, bring them back up. And as you exhale, drop both knees to the other side. As you inhale, bring them back up and keep going. We'll go one more time on each side, or whatever feels like a good number for you. When you feel like you're even and your knees have returned to the center, allow them to drop open away from each other. Soles of the feet are touching. So this is reclined Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. Just take a moment, let your body kind of settle for a second, and then all we're going to do is a gentle low back release. So the next time you breathe in, tilt your pelvis back. So you're kind of mashing your low back into the floor. Just keep breathing normally. What you're doing here is kind of scooping out. In Pilates, they call this a scoop. Your pubic bone is kind of tilting up, and what you're doing is lengthening low back muscles because the abdomen is tightening. On your next exhale, just release that and begin to extend your legs. And as your legs extend, I want you to actually play with, take your legs farther apart, take your legs closer together, and then find the just right spot. It's that Goldilocks spot. So the feet are not too far apart, they're not too close together, they're just right. And then just let everything flop and relax. So you're relaxing from the ankle, the knee, and the hip joint. Your feet will naturally either roll in or roll out. Just allow that to happen. And then check in with your glutes, your backside, make sure they feel soft and relaxed. Maybe lengthen the spine a little more by lifting the rib cage, and then lengthen the neck by lifting the head. Place it all back down so that you feel as long and straight as possible. Make sure your shoulders are sliding down the back and then totally relaxed. Your hands are palms up, your arms are straight, and you can play with your arm angle too. How does it feel to have them right beside your body? How does it feel to have them almost out to the sides? And then different places in between. Find the right spot and then totally relax. Extend your fingers and then relax them. So they should naturally curl up a little bit when they're completely relaxed. Close your eyes. Make sure that you're not squeezing your eyes shut, but that your eyes are just gently closed. The eyelids float on top of the eyeballs. Your forehead feels smooth. There's a little bit of space between your teeth because your jaw is relaxed. Take a deep breath in through your nose. And a big exhale through your mouth. And now I want you to let go of your breath control. So I've asked you for most of the practice to do an Ujjayi breath. Now you let that go. You're not worried at all about your breathing because your body will take care of that for you. You don't even need to participate. The body's just going to breathe. The muscles get softer. They spread slightly as they hit total relaxation. I want you to imagine that right in your navel, you have like this imaginary wick. You know how a candle, when you light it, slowly, the wax melts from the center out, like an ever-widening ring of soft liquid warmth. You're going to do the same thing with your body. Every time you breathe, I want you to imagine that you're just melting slightly, liquefying from the center outward. You can use that image of a candle and wax if that works for you, or you can just feel yourself becoming warm and fluid. It's as though you are a candle and you're burning from the center out. And so you start to feel your whole abdominal area getting warm and melty and liquid. And as that warm liquid reaches the edges of the torso, you feel it beginning to extend down the legs into the feet, down the arms into the hands, and up the neck and into the head, as though you're just simply becoming a nice warm puddle. We forget that we are, in fact, predominantly fluid. Technically, our bodies that feel so solid are actually fluid-filled sacs. More than half of our body is comprised of water. So this is a really nice way to just get back in touch with our most basic nature, which is just as fluid as it is solid. Start to feel back into muscles. And even though you know that you are quote unquote solid and you can feel it, just keep that hint of warm liquid consistency with your body. Maybe even noticing how fluid you feel as you gently start to bring some movement back to the fingers and toes. Start to deepen your breath a little bit. And then when you're ready, go ahead and extend your fingers and toes. And then just exhale with a soft sigh as you relax them. Inhale even deeper and stretch your body out to its fullest length. And again, exhale and relax. Bend your knees. As you feel like you're ready, go ahead and roll on over onto your right side. And then press yourself up into sitting. As you come to your seated position, just find a nice, straight, aligned spine. Shoulders are relaxed. So we're just going to keep working with Ujjayi breath, as I said, working with the basics. And a really basic breath pattern, pranayam, is a 1-to-2 ratio breath. So using your Ujjayi breath for one of its purposes, which is to slow the exhale, we're simply going to do a 1-to-2 ratio breath. Whatever you inhale, your exhale will be twice as long. This is all through the nose. And in order to get that double length exhale, that's why we employ Ujjayi breathing. It slows your breath down. So you get to do whatever count works for you, but it's a 1-to-2 ratio breath. Whatever you inhale, you want your exhale to be twice as long, and all through the nose. Let's all start together by taking a deep breath in, exhaling completely through the nose, and then your count, your breath, 1-to-2 ratio Ujjayi. Finish out the breath that you're on, and as you do, just let your breathing return to normal and simply sit in stillness and silence for a moment. So as we're bringing our practice to a close today, our reminder of some of the basics, it's really appropriate to remember that this, what we're doing right now, is the point of everything that preceded it. To be able to sit in stillness and silence for meditation or prayer is really the ultimate goal. Bring your palms together in front of your heart. Let's take a moment in gratitude this morning for yoga, for union, for this beautiful discipline, this art and science that addresses all of our needs if we allow it to. The physical, the mental, the emotional, the energetic, and even the spiritual. Take one more deep breath in through the nose. Soft sigh through the mouth. We bring our palms together in front of our foreheads, and this is just a reminder to be present, to pay attention, to show up for our lives. We bring our palms together in front of our mouths. This reminds us to speak our truth, to be honest, to seek truth. We bring our palms together in front of our hearts, and this reminds us to keep our hearts open so that we can always practice kindness, compassion, and love, and to remember to include ourselves in that. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Namaste.